The ore dock special to the community of Marquette. It's been in its place as it is now for over 80 years.
I think it has a sort of an industrial cathedral effect.
The ore dock special to the community of Marquette. It's been in its place as it is now for over 80 years. Before that, there was actually a timber ore dock there. It was built in 1931. It's a large, prominent structure right downtown Marquette. It gets a lot of interest from locals and from tourists. People stop by regularly, get photos of it, photos with it. It's part of the downtown environment and what we think of when we think of Marquette.
Well, I think the ore dock is special to the community because it represents Marquette's heritage. It is obviously related to the iron ore history in the area. It's predominantly located in Clearview down in the lower harbor for everyone to see. Anyone coming into town, it's an obvious feature.
So the ore dock is a means of transporting iron ore from the mines to the ore boats that would come into Marquette. There used to be a timber trestle that came right through downtown up to the front of the ore dock. Train cars would go up on top of the ore dock. They would drop ore through bottoms of the cars into pockets up on the ore dock. Once the pockets were full, they could lower the chutes down into the boat.
It's actually made up of 8 independent sections. Each section is supported on piles, timber piles. The upper part of the structure is all reinforced concrete, and then held on the concrete is some ancillary steel, which is related to the chutes themselves, the hoisting mechanisms on the chutes, bin gates, and other ancillary steel parts. So it's a fairly simple structure. It's very large and pretty heavy. What it was capable of holding as far as weight is about what it weighs just by itself right now. The study was conducted, it was requested by the city. The city owns the ore dock structure. They would like to see it be developed into some sort of public use, commercial development, something that some developer may have a good idea to make it a better, more usable part of the community. So to facilitate doing that, the city would like to know what they own, what condition it's in, does it need any maintenance, what sort of things have to be done to it if someone came in and wanted to develop it. So basically just do a condition assessment of the structure, find out what needs to be done to it or what condition it's in now.
So the city of Marquette has had a lot of interest in the ore dock over the past several years and repurposing it for different uses. Some of those have been commercial, residential, condominiums. The city has had some interest in potentially putting pedestrian access around the ore dock. In order to do that, the ore dock has to be physically fit, sound, and stable to have people on there for safety purposes and for structural stability of anything that's going to be on it. So the city has hired a consultant, GEI, to assess the current condition and structural stability of the ore dock.
So there was the field inspections that were done on the project consisted of basically 2 inspection teams. There was an underwater inspection and a superstructure inspection. The work was done, of course, with safety fully in mind. The underwater inspection was done by a 3-person dive team, 1 diver, 1 standby tender diver, and then a supervisor. That team was made up of structural engineers that were certified for diving and met OSHA compliance requirements. They were able to do bathymetry surveys, check out where the bottom is relative to where everyone thought the bottom is, what the condition of the piles were, and the underside of the pile caps, the concrete that is sitting on top of the piles.
We had divers inspect the substructure of the ore dock, everything underneath the water. They used sonar to produce an accurate bathymetric map of the surface underwater. They physically and visually inspected the piles that they could get to. There's approximately 7,600 piles in the ore dock supporting it, so it's quite a task to be able to get to all of them, but they were able to get a representative sample. They took cores of some of the piles to determine what kind of wood they were, if we could, also what kind of condition they were in.
They inspected 3 different things. They checked the bottom of the lake bottom basically, to find out whether or not it was at a level that was where the design drawings expected it to be. And basically they found that it was infilled by about 3 to 7 feet from the original design. So it has silted in over time. The piles, they were able to do visual inspection of all the piles, and for the most part the piles were in really good condition. Some of them were split. Very few of them were damaged around the perimeter. Some of them had some erosion due to most likely ice, but the interior piles were in good shape. The piles' connection to the pile cap, which is where the wood piles go into the concrete structure, that was all in good shape. The concrete was in good condition. There was some deterioration of the pile cap around the perimeter of the structure, again due to probably ice damage and just falling, just concrete deterioration in general. The piles themselves, they varied from about 10 to 16 inches in diameter. Since it's fresh water, there's no bugs basically that like to chew up the wood. In an ocean environment, that would be different. That wood would be all chewed up by bugs. And Lake Superior would last forever. One of the really telling ways that the diver showed me that the piles were in good condition was they took their dive knife and stabbed the piles and took video of that, and that was very clear evidence to me that showed the wood was in great shape. It wasn't punky in any way. It was solid wood. So the divers basically found that the piles were in great condition, were at spacings that were very similar or exactly matched the design drawings, and things were in good shape.
For superstructure inspections, we visually inspected the entire structure. Going through the bottom part wasn't too challenging. We were able to physically traverse it without too much difficulty. However, there's no access to the top of the ore dock, so in order to get up there and inspect it, we use rope access techniques. There's no stairs or any other means to get up to it, no ladders or anything up there, and it's about 86 feet above the water surface. So using the rope access, we were able to get a team of technicians and engineers up onto the superstructure of the ore dock and inspect the chutes and the gates and the pockets and bin walls, and get a really good idea as to what's going on and what kind of shape it's all in. We also thoroughly documented it with photographs and field notes depicting everywhere we found potential distressed areas or any potential concerns.
The structure's 86 feet tall and 66 feet wide and almost 1,000 feet long. So getting up onto the superstructure was challenging, posed a lot of safety risks, and we used rope access techniques, which consists of 2 safety lines, a primary line to climb on or descend on, and a backup line in case your primary line failed. And we did that inspection with a 3-person inspection team that was certified in rope access techniques. And so we got to climb all over the structure and got to see parts of the structure and views that most everyone doesn't get to see. So it was quite an enjoyable inspection.
Generally speaking, the structure's in really good shape. it's structurally sound overall. There are some areas of concern. Some of the things that were commonly noted throughout the inspection were areas of spalled concrete or delaminated concrete.
Primarily reinforced concrete. That's what you see when you look out at the structure is mostly reinforced concrete with a little bit of riveted steel hanging off of it. When you go around and you check out the concrete structure, the biggest thing that you see as far as deterioration is spalling of the concrete surface. And what spalling is the surface of the concrete popping off, and water has gotten back to the reinforcement, corroded the reinforcement. That's all over the structure here and there. It doesn't necessarily represent a structural deficiency, although if left unchecked, it could. Things we were really trying to look for in the concrete structure that would tell us whether or not there was a problem or not is any sort of differential movements between the 8 sections. If they moved independently, you'd be able to see that at the top of the joint it might be fatter or wider than the bottom of the joint. That would indicate differential movement, or are they offset in some way. We didn't see any of that. In each of the sections, as the sections moved a lot, we would see cracking in that. We didn't see any cracking in any of the concrete elements. So the concrete was really sound with no evidence of any structural distress.
There is some section loss on the piles, but nothing real significant overall. The areas that did have concern were localized and small, not anything major over the structure. The chutes were in really good shape. All the metal was generally in great shape. The paint was in good condition and holding up well. The braided cables that support the chutes were also in great shape. Some of them still had some of the original grease on them from about 30-40 years ago when they were last maintained. There was some minor cracking noticed throughout the structure. However, it's to be expected on a concrete structure of this age and this type of use.
So the corrosion is really minor on the steel elements. There's really no distress within the steel. All the steel embeds into the concrete were observed to be in good shape.
So we believe that the structure is suitable for potential repurposing and reuse, given several different scenarios. Our recommendations moving forward on the project are essentially 3 different things. There's the do-nothing approach, which lets the ore dock sit in its current state and continue to slowly deteriorate as it is. The second one is providing public access onto the ore dock, or doing the minimal amount of cleanup required and repair, which would be scaling off the loose concrete, some patchwork, some cleaning of brush and soil and some of the vegetation that's growing on it. The other option is potential commercial residential development, really using it for something new in the future. Moving forward though, at a minimum, if the city wants to potentially reuse it or keep it in a useful condition, it should be taken care of, and then there should be a regular maintenance plan put in place to go and inspect it every 5 years and make sure everything's in good shape.
Limited maintenance is probably the best way to take our recommendations. The structure is reliable for the long term. However, a little bit of maintenance will make sure that no further deterioration of the structure occurs. That maintenance would consist primarily of removing soil from the chutes. Soil in the chutes will deteriorate those chutes quicker, so getting rid of that would be a good idea. Maintaining the critical supporting elements of the chutes themselves, the hoist, the steel belts, the connections, the pins, making sure that all those are reliable so there's no risk of those things falling would be a good idea.